Hello everybody, this is Mithril Zenith, and welcome back to the Archanea map recap. Welcome to Port Warren. This is the map, everyone's favorite map. Okay, probably not. It's everyone's favorite map to warp skip, I guess, and to fight in the arena and lose units and maybe recruit Roger, but also maybe not, because, yeah, we'll talk about it. So, Port Warren, this map is in all three versions of the game, for varying degrees of similarity. There are some small differences, largely they're the same, so let's talk about it. First of all, you have two houses up here in every version of the game, but you also have two extra houses down here in Fire Emblem 3. Now, what these houses talk about, let me just pull this up real quick. The upper left house talks about, in the forts there are enemies making preparations for battle. So basically another warning, hey, reinforcements come from forts, better cap them off before they come out or what have you. And then this one talks about the Princess of Macedonia or Macedon or whatever being held captive by Dollar. If Macedon and the Empire are allies, why are they doing this? Various translations change what they're talking about, but basically another nod to, hey, you know, Minerva's sister, she's being held captive. I wonder why. So this is not the first time we've seen that sort of text. We've seen text talking about Minerva working with the Empire because her sister was held captive. Now we're seeing another house, after seeing Minerva in the last chapter, saying, hey, Minerva's sister is being held captive. Nod to the player to, hey, put two and two together. Maybe this is why she was fighting, but didn't want to fight. And then this house, which has, in some translations, the exact same text as the house from a couple chapters ago, so I was wondering if that was different, but no, it's in all three versions of the game. You have this house that talks about reinforcements from the fort. So let's talk about those reinforcements from the fort. Let me get into the markup area, because these are all zone-based reinforcements, I'm pretty sure. Let me check. Actually, no. Fire Emblem 1, once again, doesn't have zone-based reinforcements. It brings... So, markup. Let's just do red here. That sounds good. So, these reinforcements will be 2 Cavaliers and 1 Horseman. Unless you're playing FE3, then the Horseman will be replaced by an Archer for some unclear reason. And these ones will be 2 Armor Knights. Now, what's interesting about that is that, so in Fire Emblem 1, they are not zone-based, they are turn-based. In Fire Emblem 1, let me just mark up here, they will spawn starting turn 11 until turn 30, these Armor Knights will spawn. And then starting turn 13 until turn 30, these Cavaliers and Horsemen will spawn. That's a lot of reinforcements. Granted, that's also a lot of turns, and so if you don't spend a ton of time with all your units shopping and managing items and fighting in the arena, you can definitely get to the boss and kill him before these reinforcements start spawning. It's not that hard. And then, of course, once the boss is defeated, the reinforcements will stop. I'm pretty sure that's the case in Fire Emblem 1, though it doesn't list that as being the case in Fire Emblem 1. In Fire Emblem 3, these reinforcements... Oh, these reinforcements are also turn-based in Fire Emblem 3. Starting turn 14 and continuing on until you get 8 rounds of reinforcements. So turn 14 and then every turn after. So you get even more time to deal with the reinforcements before they start spawning in FE3. And then over here in FE11, we actually have the zone-based reinforcements, which I think are kind of cool. So let me just mark up roughly where these zones are, because it's a little bit confusing. So we'll do the red zone for these. Now it says it's columns 1 to 6, rows 1 to 9. So basically, if you have any units in this section, or any units in columns 3 through 30, rows 6 to 18. 6 to 18. Five, six, seven. Basically like that. So if you have any units in the red areas, then these reinforcements will start. The 2 Cavaliers and 1 Archer. If you have any units in, let's just do blue, this blue section, which is roughly here, I want to say maybe it's like up here, or also this same area here, then the Armor Knights here will spawn. Which means if you try to move units around to cap the forts, that will trigger the forts. If you try to attack the boss and stop the forts from triggering, that will trigger the forts. Granted, once the boss is dead, the reinforcements will stop. So long as... It says that they will finish the last group that was triggered and then they'll stop. So you might still get one wave of reinforcements, but you won't get all of them. So, basically, zone-based reinforcements, but very odd zone-based reinforcements. Not like, hey, you're moving over here, let's, charge the reinforcements. No, that's not how that works. The reinforcements only start once you basically arrive at the boss, or if you try and cap them off. Which goes kind of against what the mindset is, which is odd, because the mindset of zone-based reinforcements usually is, hey, you want to get to the fort early to cap it off, and to prevent the reinforcements from spawning. But if you try to go to the fort in FE11, that is exactly what causes the reinforcements to start spawning. I just thought that was interesting. So, zone-based reinforcements in FE11, not in FE3 or FE1. Speaking of FE3, there's also this fun character here. The pirate who ignores combat and moves east to escape. So this guy will just book it. He'll just go. He just goes east, and then he leaves. And if you kill him, you get a silver axe. I shouldn't be drawing axes. I don't know why I'm doing that. So, let's talk about the shops. This chapter is notable because you can buy a lot of good items in these shops. You can buy... well, let's see here. You can buy rapiers, iron and steel swords. In Shadow Dragon, you can buy silver swords and rapiers. In Shadow Dragon, you can buy silver lances and wing spears. In FE1, you can buy silver lances. In Mystery of the Emblem and FE3, you can buy killing edges and silver lances. You can buy some pretty good equipment, maybe silver swords, definitely silver lances in all 3 versions of the game, rapiers and wing spears where they're available. Not in FE3, I guess, but oh well, Port Warren went down on hard times. I guess that's the economic situation when you're only getting half as much gold. Port Warren's suffering too. I guess everyone's in a recession in FE3, and then they spring back in even better form in FE11, but, such is life. So, given that, you're going to want to spend some time shopping. And if you're playing Fire Emblem 1, for instance, that means you're going to have to spend a lot of time managing inventories, and you're going to have to use a lot of units to shop if you want to buy a lot of stuff. You can't buy axes, I believe. According to the wiki, you can't buy axes on this chapter, so you can buy pretty much anything else, but not axes. Speaking of axes, this may or may not be the only silver axe available to you, because you can only buy steel axes here. and I think they also cut off your ability to buy axes later into the game in FE3. I know they do in FE1. I'll have to check later on when they actually cut off your ability to buy axes in FE3. So you're going to want to kill this pirate for a silver axe, especially if you're wanting to use Board Cord or Barst. But even if you're not, silver axe is still decent money, and this game doesn't give you as much. Like I said, it gives you half as much every single time it can give you money as 1 or 11. As for starting position, starting deployment, it looks like FE3 starts you slightly more forward. Yeah, you're a little more clustered back here. There's slightly more forward. 1 or 2 spaces doesn't really mean a whole lot. This isn't a map where that sort of mobility is incredibly valuable. Though I will say, these Cavaliers and Horsemen will come down into this choke and then hit this choke. These Armor Knights will come down into this choke and then be behind the cavalry kind of up here. So how this map flow normally goes is you have Rad, Caesar, and maybe whoever else wants to shop or go to the arena, do stuff over here. You might send flyers up to deal with the boss, but that'll trigger these reinforcements. In FE3, you're probably going to send a flyer, I guess you only have Sita, to try and fight this pirate, if you have her and have her trained, and then go up and try to recruit Roger. Actually, is Roger even in FE3? He is not. Roger is at the very least not in this map in FE3. He might not exist. So let's talk about Roger, shall we? Another one of Sita's 5 recruitments, of which very few are told to you by the game. Roger is an Armor Knight that has effectively base stats for an Armor Knight. Let me take a look and see if there's any difference. Okay, he has slightly better stats, but he's also slightly higher level. He's 1 or 2 stats above the other Armor Knights here. He's not that strong. He's generally weaker than Drog if you were using Drog. He's stronger than Drog was at base. And notably, he has more defense, which in Fire Emblem 1 in particular, Drog's defense growth is 10%. It's terrible. And so having that extra defense can be nice if you want an Armor Knight, but you don't really need him. He's just another kind of filler bonus character. And just another character that Sita recruits for no clear reason, and also is flanked by archers, so if you try to rush to recruit him with Sita, she'll get shot down by archers. So, another fun example of Fire Emblem 1 being mean to Sita whilst also making her recruit units. Aside from that, like I said, I talked about the map flow. I can do the markup here, just because I think it's worth repeating. These Cavaliers will come this way. These Armor Knights will come this... I need a better color that will show up better. These Cavaliers will come this way. These Armor Knights will come this way. You're likely to move up here, and so you're going to fight combat kind of on this front, really centralizing the choke point, and then maybe move up into this choke point, and these are where all the fights are going to happen. That is, assuming you don't just warp skip the map entirely like a lot of people do. A lot of people see, hey, the boss has no enemies nearby. I can just use Caesar and Rad to do all my shopping, get the money, and then warp and win the map in 2 turns. Granted, warping here, if you are in Fire Emblem 11, means that triggers the reinforcements here. Though in 1 and 3 that doesn't. So that's fun. But yeah, this is the map flow, and it's once again a very linear map flow. This doesn't have the same 2-group structure. There's not enemies here in Port Warren for you to go and attack and then go up here and attack here and split your army. No, that doesn't happen. You have some opportunities here to shop and trade items, but mostly your army is going this way, charging forward, or you're warping towards the boss. Now, is that good map design? It's definitely different from the previous maps, and unlike the last map, there are a lot of enemies to actually fight. So if you want experience, this is a very good grinding map for experience. I know people, when they play in Hard 5 for Shadow Dragon, what they will do is just sit on... Yeah, what they'll do is they'll just sit like Wolf or Sedgar here, or maybe they'll go up and sit them here, or just here, and just absorb all of these units. And then they'll, walk here and trigger this zone, and they'll walk over here and trigger this zone, or they'll walk to the boss and trigger this zone and avoid killing the boss, just so Wolf and Sedgar can absorb all this experience, and then all this experience. And then suddenly you have 1 or 2 generals who have gotten several levels with basically guaranteed defense level ups, and then you can put them into hero or horseman or whatever you want and just swing through the rest of the game. That is an option for you if you like just sitting for 30 turns and grinding. You can do that. That is certainly a solution to Hard 5. But I will say, once again, there's only one way to go. You can branch off and cap these if you want, but those are optional. There's really only one way to go, and there's only the boss here, which is... The boss isn't even supported by, like, archers or myrmidons or armor knights or anything, so leaving the boss completely alone and isolated like this is just begging for someone to just warp. And so I don't necessarily blame people for warp skipping this map. So, yeah, linear map flow, very obvious warp skippable. If I were to change the map, I think I would add a couple enemy units here around the boss. Maybe add some units in Port Warren to encourage you to fight, but also maybe not, because you have Rad and Caesar here who are not really fit to fight units on their level right away. So maybe add some units over here. Maybe have some pirates over here and like a village. But the problem is if you add a village here, then Marth has to go all the way over here and then all the way back around here, assuming you don't warp. So that's probably not great. So yeah, maybe some pirates who can then come down and attack. That could work of like, hey, get your shopping done and get out, or send units to fight the pirates while you're sending the rest of your army up here. That kind of encourages more of that two-pronged nature that the early maps incentivized. I think that would be a much stronger map. And then, of course, having, like I said, enemies, more enemies around the boss. Please, add those enemies around the boss. I don't know why there are not anything around the boss whatsoever. The fact that FE11 makes this a reinforcement zone does make it interesting. Kind of, I guess? But not really, because by the time you're in the reinforcement zone, which is like here, you've either already dealt with these reinforcements, or you've warp skipped and you're so far away from them it doesn't matter. You're not going to take 5 turns to kill the boss if you're warp skipping. Or if you're sending a really strong unit forward, your strong unit is not going to take 5 turns to kill the boss, because the boss is only slightly stronger than the rest of these armor knights. Yeah, not particularly interesting. The one other change I wanted to highlight in this map is that the boss drops different things based on which game you're in. In Fire Emblem 1, the boss drops a silver sword. And you don't buy silver swords here. You can buy steel swords, you can buy rapiers. I thought you could buy killing swords, but apparently that's only in FE11. But yeah, boss drops a silver sword in Fire Emblem 1. In Fire Emblem 3, the boss drops a goddess icon. That's kind of nice. Doesn't drop a weapon because you can buy weapons here. Drops a goddess icon instead. Makes the map feel a little bit better. Makes it feel like a more of an actual reward and not just a, oh hey, you probably bought one of these, now here's another free one. And then in Fire Emblem 11, the boss drops a Levin sword, which is an item that you can't buy in Port Warren. So once again, interesting boss reward, makes it kind of rewarding to actually fight and kill him. I mean, you have to kill the boss anyway, so it doesn't necessarily change matters, but I do like it when the boss drop is at least something more interesting than something you can already just buy in the chapter itself. But with that, I think my analysis is over. I hope I was recording that whole thing. Yeah, it looks like I was. If you like this map, if you hate this map, let me know in the comments below. Talk to me about your favorite warp skips. Let me know of any arena stories you have. Oh, that is one thing I didn't mention. The other houses in FE3. Whoops. There's one that just talks about the arena. In the Coliseum, you'll be rewarded with golden experience if you win, but if you die, you lose your life. So, just letting people know the arena is not safe combat. And then one says, to defeat dragons, you must use a dragon killer sword. Which is interesting, because the next map doesn't exist in Fire Emblem 3, the map where you would get the dragon sword and kill a dragon. So I guess they're giving you that heads up, even though you can't even buy a dragon sword here. Kinda pointless. But anyway, thank you for watching. Sub to the channel if you appreciate the content. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. It really does help out. And until next time, this is Mythos Zenith signing out.